Hi, my name is Martina.
And today we're going to be finding out more about Apollo 13. Here is the original crew made up of Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Ken Mattingly. The crew had trained for their mission together, but the week before the mission, the crew were accidentally exposed to a case of German measles, and all but Mattingly had immunity, which meant backup crew member Jack Swigert took his place just 48 hours before launch. He was a fully qualified NASA astronaut, but hadn't the same practice experience that the other crew members had, meaning a busy 2 days before launch. Don't feel too bad for Mattingly though, he never actually got the measles and later flew on Apollo 16 to the moon 2 years later. Now, there wasn't huge public interest in this mission. The day before launch, the Beatles had announced they were splitting up, and that was making headlines. And also, America was still fighting an unpopular war in Vietnam, so people just weren't that interested in another manned mission to the moon.
7, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit and we have liftoff at 2:13. The Saturn V building up to 7.6 million pounds of thrust, and it has cleared the tower.
This is mission. This is the crew of Apollo 13. Wishing everybody there a nice evening, and we're just about ready to close out our inspection of Aquarius and get back for a pleasant evening at Odyssey. Good night.
Now, the crew were heading to the Fra Mauro uplands on the moon. The previous missions had landed on smooth mare areas, so this was going to be a new challenge in itself.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
5 guidance.
Go guidance.
We've had a hardware restart. I don't know what it was.
Okay.
Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
You see an AC bus undervolt there, guidance? Or ECOM?
Negative flight.
I believe the crew reported it.
We got a main B undervolt.
We may have had an instrumentation problem, flight.
Roger. And we had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning
This explosion meant that oxygen was venting out into space. This oxygen was needed to make power and for the crew to breathe, as well as making water. So it was realised at this stage that this mission was now about getting this crew home safely. So the crew powered down everything that they possibly could just to conserve enough power in the batteries to get them back to Earth. It was going to take them about 4 days to get back home. They were using the moon's gravity to slingshot them back towards the Earth, therefore conserving power by not having to manoeuvre around too much. So all that was left for them to do was to enjoy the view of the moon that they knew they were never going to get to land on. Now, as oxygen was running out on the command module, the crew had to move on board to the lunar lander. It had its own oxygen and power supply. However, it was only designed to hold 2 men on board for a day and a half as they completed their moonwalks, but now it was going to have to hold 3 men for 4 days. Now, there was plenty of oxygen available on the lunar lander. The next problem the crew were going to face was that the scrubbing tool used to clean the air of carbon dioxide from their breathing was not superior enough for the 3 men. So they had to take the one from the command module. problem with this was it was square and the space on board the lunar lander was round, so it was literally a square peg in a round hole. The experts at Mission Control had to fashion up a way to fit them both together just by using what was available to the crew on board. Now, it seems a lot like this crew just can't catch a break. The water in their lunar modules started to leak and it meant the crew's feet had got quite wet. The temperatures had already dropped down to 3 degrees Celsius by cutting all of their power supplies, and now they were running out of water. They had to ration their water down to just a couple of 100 millilitres each a day and then try and live on the wet food packets, but because of the temperature, they had all pretty much frozen. Now, with the power being switched down, Commander Jim Lovell literally had to point the spacecraft towards the shadow of the Earth and aim for there. Once they got closer to the Earth, the crew climbed back on board their capsule and they got ready for re-entry. Calculations had to be correct to make sure that they were going to enter the Earth's atmosphere at the right angle. Too shallow, they could have bounced off and headed back out into space, and too deep, they could have burnt up on re-entry. But they got that right and they managed to land safely in the South Pacific Ocean. They were then rescued by a US Navy ship and Navy divers to get them back home safely, back on ground. This mission is often thought of as NASA's finest hour. They didn't manage to land man on the moon in this mission, but they did manage to return a crew safely from 200,000 miles away. Now, the 3 astronauts on board never actually flew to space again. Swigert retired and joined Congress. Fred Hayes was due to fly to space on Apollo 18, but that mission got cut due to funding budgets. And Jim Lovell, who had been the most experienced and most flown astronaut, he retired from the astronaut corps too, but is the first person to have flown to the moon twice yet never have landed. So hope that you enjoyed finding out more about this incredible mission, and if you have any questions, pop them below, and thank you for watching.